I've had a series of friends for a few years that have non-stop recommended to me the Xenoblade series. They say it is the best gaming series ever made and I should play it. Well, I started to play the game series, and I am glad to confirm that this is definitely the case. It is easily one of the best game series I've ever played. It is really well done, and I really regret not enjoying it the first time than buying my own copy and playing it on my own computer, because originally one of the problems I had with the game was that I was playing it on keyboard and mouse through an emulator. I bought the game on my Switch and have continued to play it. Anyways, onto the video. Please enjoy.
The Monado. It's the only sword that's effective against the Mechon armor. They say that before time began, it was wielded by the Bionis. The same Bionis that we all live on. It must have a secret. That's how Dunban was able to destroy so many Mechon. And why he lost the use of his right arm. If I can just unlock the secret of its power.
Also, to clear any base claims about me not mentioning Xenoblade 1 on the Wii, and that is simply because I have never played it. From what I've heard, the game series on the Switch is infinitely better in every possible way than the previous version on the Wii because of the amount of quality of life improvements. I've never played any of the other Xenoblade games other than Xenoblade Definitive Edition on the Switch. Also, just as a fair warning, there will be major sections of this review that will be marked as spoilers or spoiler-free zones, just to warn you guys. All of these sections will be not only marked, but I will be going out of my way to make sure they are announced in the audio of this video as well. Xenoblade Definitive Edition is a JRPG, whatever heck that stands for, game that is about characters living on the backs of a series of giants are at war with each other. Basically, there are two giants. One is known as the Bionis, which is the giant associated with biological life and is the origin of biological life in this story. And the other one is known as the Mechonis, which is the origin of mechanical life, robots, robot people, etc. Both giants were at war with each other, but reach an ultimate stalemate before the series takes place. It is explained that the Mechon, which is the name of life on the Mechonis, were at odds ends with the Homs, which the Homs are the name of life on Bionis. The story was supposed to be a revenge story about how the Homs wanted revenge for the damage done to their livelihoods and the quality of life on the Bionis. It evolved to be loads more, actually. Quite a bit more. Every single character felt extremely real. It felt so genuine, and with the voice acting being as over the top as it was, it made it into a really incredible experience. Easily, as my friends pointed out, one of the best games ever made. This game is available on the Switch 1, and it's cross-compatible on the Switch 2, but by the way, this is not really a kid's game, for a lot of death does take place, and a lot of young adult themes. Nothing super gory, nothing super mature, though I will say, the game is like Final Fantasy, but with a story as good as Final Fantasy, and arguably better mechanics. Also, take this with a grain of salt since I have not played much of Final Fantasy at all. The controls basically involve using a D-pad and bumpers to go into the menus that are needed to go into things like combat in the game. I found this difficult at first since I was having Nintendo 64 controller moments. If you remember the Nintendo 64, where in order to press certain buttons quickly at times, I had to move my hands all over the controller Otherwise, I would have problems mid-combat making decisions. This isn't really a bad thing, I want to point out, and the reason being is this is probably more of a skill issue. This is really probably more of a skill issue. Also worth mentioning, this was not really an issue as I progressed through the game. I thought the game mechanics were cool. It is like Pokemon, but actually faster paced. What I liked about Pokemon is that you are constantly thinking as hard as possible to get the best possible outcome, similar to chess. I will say it felt like major portions of the combat for this game were broken or just automated, but this isn't really a bad thing because there wasn't the case entirely, and the reason being is it was still a challenge. It was still a challenge without a doubt, and it was really well done despite this. The game utilized a combat system which involved automated attacking. This system was used on top of attacks known as arts, which are best utilized in specific locations on an enemy. If you use a back attack, you are best using it attacking an enemy from behind. If you are using a side attack, it is best to use it on an enemy's side. This is designed so that attacking enemies using arts in specific locations is crucial for the gaming experience, because if you don't do this, you can't get party gauge, and the reason this is important is because you actually do need to revive your party, chain attacks, and warn people of possible upcoming attacks. Worth mentioning, another reason why they do this, and this is probably the main reason, is otherwise the attacking would be too automated. You'd just be sitting in place letting the controller do everything, and that's just not how a game should be played. The main character, whose name is Shulk, has the ability to predict the future, and you can see this in many cutscenes with the help of a countdown to let you know how much time you got left. You need this character to predict certain upcoming attacks, otherwise your entire team can be swept in one blow. I have really never seen this really implemented in a game before. This was really super interesting of a mechanic to exist in the game. I don't think it has ever really been implemented in any way before or after, which is super cool that they managed to pull this off. Gem crafting is easily one of the most broken parts of the game. It is an item you can craft that gives you abilities in late game that are very busted. You craft gems by finding them throughout the game, enemy drops, or just by simply mining it. In early game, it isn't as good. It really doesn't do much early game. Basically, you take items, pick 2 players, and based on their skill and affinity, you can craft as many gems as you can, get all kinds of gem rankings with gem crafting. It also has the ability to be so busted it can double your defense. As insane as that is, you do need gems to go against certain overpowered bosses in the game, for I'm gonna be honest, they are essential to beating them, especially considering the bosses in the game are over the party's max level limit, resulting in the fact that if you are 5 levels under an enemy, boss, whatever, you won't be able to attack it simply because your attacks won't be able to touch it. Also worth mentioning that you really don't need gems to beat this game. You don't need them at all. You can technically leave this alone and not use it to beat the game. I will say though, after a game, you will absolutely need it to do certain things. Worth mentioning that if you play this game, please do not do what I did. In this game, I spent most of it, which is my playthrough, with 3 characters, and only these 3 characters, who do have the ability to switch to who you main as, and it is actually highly encouraged and also highly recommended. Because I mained as only 3 people, it resulted in me never really learning about those other characters for the most part. Because of this, I never actually really learned how to play them, never got much affinity with the other characters, and because of this, when I absolutely needed to play as those characters, it made playing as them way harder. Worth mentioning that you can play as almost any character you want with any party members and still actually be able to beat the game, no issues at any point. After all, there are multiple ways, if you are having problems, to handle an enemy or boss without really any massive need to switch these characters. Now in the game, there is something called the Event Theater. For the love of God, don't use it until after you beat the game. The reason being is overanalyzing any chapter in the game contains insane level story elements that actually have the potential to spoil the entire game by overanalyzing a single cutscene. I am serious. Please do not do this. There will be sections of this game you'll be on the Mechonis. Any items you find on the Mechonis, don't sell, don't trash. If you don't understand what I'm talking about, or why you would want to not get rid of these items on the Mechonis, don't ask, just play the game and you'll find out for yourself. Otherwise, you will get headaches later on in the game that makes actually getting certain parts of the game way too hard to get access to. This part of the video will be spoiled because of the fact I will be talking about the story for this section of the review. If you have a problem with spoilers, you can skip ahead to the point of the spoiler-free zone. The first 3 chapters of the game actually foreshadow the entire plot of the whole game, and it is done so extremely well that you basically have no idea that the plot is being entirely foreshadowed the whole time. I absolutely despise the fact that there are so many insane story elements in the game that I never really fully understood until it got revealed as being true until the end of the game. Like, for example, Shulk's inner voice. I also want to mention that, yes, I despise this, but I am only despising this because I simply am upset with myself. The fact I didn't understand this because it was so well foreshadowed. It is explained early in the game that there was this character named Dunban who wielded a weapon known as the Monado. It was the only weapon that can be used against Mechon that are robots from the back of the Mechonis. Dunban wielded the Monado but suffered lifelong injuries from it. So for this reason, he was left almost permanently disabled from it due to the sword destroying his arm that wielded it. He was also permanently disabled for a good portion of the game. With that said, the main character of the game series is Shulk. Shulk is a character that is best described as having trust issues in people, while also being caring and having personal drama that at the end of the game everyone will share, but Shulk will have it magnified to the power of 6. Shulk is able to use the Monado effortlessly. Not only was Shulk able to wield it so effortlessly, he can predict the future with it. Shulk being Dixon's adopted child, who is somehow able to wield it for no explainable reason until it gets explained in the game later. Also, Dixon's 3D model literally looks exactly like Hulk Hogan for some reason that gets explained later. He also looks like an ass for reasons that don't get explained for much later. I really hated this choice in his voice, in the aesthetic, since I thought it didn't really fit, but I felt much better about the design choice in the second to last chapter and only during and after the second to last chapter. Also worth mentioning that Dixon was massively foreshadowed as being the bad from the very start, and even to this day, it still feels like a head burner, especially considering how well foreshadowed it was. One of the worst parts, in my opinion, of Shulk's character is the fact he's constantly going out of his way to lie about the future so that he can not get help from everyone else. Like, I appreciate them trying to explain that he has trust issues in people, but it also never really got fully explained why he is this way to the level it is at all. Not to mention, it is super annoying having to deal with it throughout the whole story. It never actually stops, to my knowledge, throughout this whole playthrough, and it comes across as annoying. If anything, I will say it did manage to stop across several chapters in the game, but then it also comes back as if nothing really had changed. You spend most of the game thinking that the bad guy in this series was this man named Eggle. He was a villain, no doubt. This becomes increasingly more apparent as it gets explained what the Faced Mechon actually are, but he is not the main villain at all. The main villain of the game is several individuals that are actually in plain sight throughout most of the game, and it doesn't really get fully explained until the second to last chapter of the game. The Faced Mechon are Mechon armor with people inside of it. I thought it was hilarious how I didn't notice that one of the Faced Mechon was the same person as one of Dunban's friends. Even though they both sounded the same, it just wasn't that obvious. That was really clever foreshadowing that honestly really worked very well, especially considering how you only knew this person based on the tutorial. Otherwise you would have no idea who this person is. I also love how in chapter 9 you encounter a scene with Dunban and that Mechon that has his friend inside of it, and how Dunban starts to realize that his friend is in there. That was also the moment I realized who that Mechon was in that moment, but it didn't really get fully realized until the end of the chapter. Also, can we give a moment to poor Dunban? He lost all his comrades because of them being backstabbers. He was never that good at using the Monado, and when he sees Shulk use it for the first time, that must have been so insulting to him in some way. Despite this, he never breaks down and is always carrying everyone on his shoulders. Dunban is literally Batman with way less money than Batman himself. I also want to mention one last thing, and that is I really like this story a lot. It is easily one of the best stories in a game I've ever played or possibly have heard of in a game. My only real complaint was how Shulk had the potential to be annoying, but that is so minor, it is hard to not be mad about that in this game, and that the Nopon, I'm gonna be honest, are clinically insane in the most ridiculous way possible, making them some of the weirdest things you will encounter throughout the entire story. I will say that I did like Ricky, but I haven't seen many Nopon I honestly liked. The only reason I like Ricky is because he's literally a punching bag. Heck, he would make the absolute best football in the world for this reason. We are now entering the spoiler-free zone. You're welcome. Now, if you've played this game, you will notice I have songs from the soundtrack in the audio of this video. Yes, that is the actual soundtrack, and it is easily some of the most beautiful music I have listened to in a game. Also, despite the voice acting being completely untouched in over a decade, it still really holds up in terms of the sound quality. The sound quality and the visuals are stunning, and they're easily one of the best games on the Switch in terms of sound and visuals, or at least from the Switch 1 perspective. In conclusion, I love this game. There's nothing you or really anyone can do to change that. Nintendo, if you are watching this, please do not kill this game at all. You have stumbled upon easily one of the best franchises I have ever heard of. I wasn't expecting to like this at all, to the level I have. I regret not buying this game when I first saw it on shelves originally, because I thought of getting this when I first got my Switch back in late 2017. The only reason I can imagine anyone hating this game is if you have no taste or you share the same mutual hate for Nopon, even though I will say there's only one Nopon throughout this whole entire story I really liked in this game, and that is it. Please, thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoy this video. Thank you for watching, and bye.